Hey everyone, hope you're enjoying New World so far. I'm back today with another tips and tricks video, but today we're going to be focusing on both territory and towns themselves. Territory and towns are two things that you're going to be first introduced to almost straight away in New World. After completing your starting area in one of the four starting locations, you're going to be kind of directed and pushed towards one of the settlements. Once you arrive, you might be slightly overwhelmed, as if lots of things kind of thrown at you. You're going to be told what to do in a lot of situations, and hopefully this video is going to kind of at least make it a lot clearer as to what you have to do in terms of the different parts of the town. First of all, though, we're going to be looking at the territory standing, as that is kind of one of the most important parts of the early game of New World. First of all, what are territories and what is territory standing? Now, a territory is one of the highlighted areas that are separate from all the others. So, for example, First Light. Now, territory standing is kind of like a reputation that you're able to gain through doing different things within that faction itself. So, this can be killing enemies, closing corrupted breaches, which are the red marks on the map, completing quests, and more. All of these things kind of lead you towards getting XP and reputation within those territories, which then gives you the option to level up. As you can see, I am level 7 in First Light, 7 in Windswood, 3 in Everville, and 1 in Monarch's Bluff, the 4 starting areas. So I've kind of had my fair share of questing and killing enemies in these different areas. Upon level up, you're going to get the option to pick one of 3 different territory standing bonuses. These bonuses include uh, increase in experience, lower trade taxes, increased gathering speed. At level 10 you can own a house, but you also get things like increased town storage and increased character experience as well. So all of these things are going to kind of help your experience within New World, and it encourages you to keep coming back to a certain area to quest or to gather resources. Now, I chose Windswood to begin with, as that was my starting zone. So in Windswood, I focused up mostly on increasing my storage and my gathering speed, as everything that I'm going to be gathering, I'm going to chuck into that storage, and I want it to be as big as possible for me to be able to kind of have as much stored as possible. And all of my storage is currently based in Windswood. I've not spread it apart across the other 4 areas, as I've had no reason to. It's always good to have a centralised hub. Windswood is perfect for that as well, because obviously it's in the centre of all 4 starting zones. However, as you saw earlier, I've also quested a lot in First Light. So what have I chosen to level in First Light? I've mostly focused on XP and standing gain. These are 2 of the most important things you want to level up if you're not if it's not your centre base operations. First Light has some really good mid-game quests around the pirate area and also the bridge area over here. These are going to be some great areas for you to quest in. So that's why I focused on kind of giving me more XP within First Light. Now, you may decide that you want to move your starting area to one of the other 4 areas. This might be to meet up with your friends. That is perfectly fine. But one thing I would consider is the company that owns your town. They actually pay quite a big bearing on your overall experience in New World. Not only do you have the territory itself and who controls it. So, for example, as a syndicate player, I might not want to set my base up with Everfall or Monarch's Bluff, but I would say it doesn't actually make too much difference to the overall gameplay. The only difference I would say it makes is perhaps the population of that area. So you might find more syndicate members in the syndicate controlled territories, but that's about it. You're going to get a mix across all 4 territories. Now, for me, the one thing that matters most is the faction that controls the territory. So, if we take a look at Windswood, my starting town, it's currently controlled by Ordo Mortis, who are a Covenant faction. The fact it's Covenant doesn't mean anything to me, it doesn't matter. What I want to be looking at is this thing down here. As you walk into a town, you're going to get the option to see these 4 different things: property tax, trading tax, crafting fee, and refining fee. These are really important to where you want to base your center operations. As it stands, Windswood is a really good place to both trade in and also craft new materials, as it's quite cheap to do so. However, if I was to go down and look at First Light, Currently, the faction that owns Versailles, the Order of the Holy Oak, has set really high property tax, fairly average trading tax, but perhaps most importantly, the crafting fee is extremely high. You want this to be as low as possible, as as an early game player, you do not want to be wasting resources, as they are quite hard to come by in the early game. And obviously, the refining fee is also really high, which definitely plays into that experience. So let's say if I were to spawn in, if I decided to set up my basic operations in Versailles, it got taken over and the taxes were bumped really high, it might be a good idea to move, because you do not want to be centering around an area with this high of property tax and such. On a final note for the territories themselves, I would recommend not paying too much attention to the crafting and refining tiers early on, as the game progresses, these will increase. Certain places might have a better forge that you need to access, so again, go to that area and use the forge, perhaps as a one-off if they don't have as good of property tax. So kind of base your decision making around this tab here, because this is really quite key to defining your gameplay in New World. Now, within the town itself, you have a great big hub of different areas. Now, to find your different crafting benches and your different refining benches, you're going to want to look at the map, zoom all the way in, and you can see really easily where different things are. Each town's different, and I'm not going to run over all of them because it's going to depend on where you are. Now, two of the main areas you're directed to early on is both your faction representative and also the town mission board. The faction board is a great place to accept quests. It's a really good way to level up. They offer fairly good XP for early game, and they also give tokens and reputation. Reputation increases your faction's influence within the town, but I'm going to be going over more of the impact of that later on. From quests from your faction leader or a faction representative, you can spend tokens to buy better gear. Now, kind of within your recommended levels, you're going to be kind of directed to different places as you level up. These are going to be almost best in slot. They're not as good, but if I was to currently buy this weapon at level 15, that's going to be the best weapon available to me at the time. So definitely recommend spending your tokens early on and buying new armor and weapons from your faction vendor. Now, the other place you're directed to early on is the town project board. This is where you can get quests to both upgrade the town and keep it well upgraded. So if your faction owns this town, you might be more inclined to do the factions within the town itself. Now, some of these quests actually have quite good XP, much better than going back and doing lower level quests. There's none here, but hunting boars can give over 1000 XP, which at my current level would give me quite a lot of XP. Doing all of these would offer me quite a big payout. So it's definitely worth doing those as you're progressing more towards the higher end of these zones. Obviously, once you move on to Brightwood and Weaver's Fen, the questions are going to become a lot easier because you're going to be getting more XP from doing higher level quests. But currently, the quests on offer to me within some of these areas are quite low level. Now, the final thing for this video on territories and towns is going to be looking at the map. So, as you can see, we've got a different map with different points of interest. Points of interest usually indicate quests. That is fairly straightforward. The one thing that people might miss is its resource locations. So this is going to be where you find the different resources that you want. So if you want oil, you're going to go to a marsh. If you want minerals and resources, which I know a lot of people will be struggling to find, you want to look for the highland areas. Now, each of the 4 starting areas has their own fair share of all of these 8 different areas. So I wouldn't worry too much about just devoting yourself to a certain area for mining, let's say. Although Monarch's Bluff does have some good mining areas, each of the 4 areas does have quite good access to all of these resources. The only distinction that I would recommend you making early on is the difference between forest and grassland. So it's quite hard to see, but forest is more of a darker green. If there's a point of interest within it, it kind of makes it a bit brighter and harder to see. So definitely be on the lookout for these areas of forest where there might be less mobs and access to some hemp and some herbs as well. And this is the grassland over here. Once again, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to like, comment and subscribe if you did so, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care.